Good morning. I'm Derek Stone with BigBookWizard.net, and we've got a great and exciting Big Book study for you today. We're going to announce the winner of the Study Edition Big Book giveaway contest, and that's going to be at the end, so stick around for that. And before we get started with the review of last week, just a quick disclaimer. Derek Stone, that's me, is a life coach, interventionist, speaker, and man in recovery. He does not claim membership in affiliation with or representation of any organization, facility, or group, 12-step or otherwise. All references to Alcoholics Anonymous are made in reference to the book, which shares that title. My videos, live Big Book studies, and online meetings are for educational purposes only and are not to be construed as professional advice, nor are they presented or to be construed as an adequate replacement for other recovery efforts which may prove necessary, including medical detox, professional treatment, rehab, IOP, counseling, therapy, medication, meeting attendance, sponsorship, and or 12-step work. So last week we were studying the doctor's opinion, and we saw a couple of things in the 2 or 3 paragraphs that we went over. The first was that a psychic change is necessary in order to recover. And that is coming from Dr. Silkworth. He's not a member of any organization affiliated with this book. He's not a 12-step fellowship member. He's not a man of religion. He's a man of science. And he is saying, as a medical man, in his expert opinion, a psychic change is necessary in order to recover. And we covered last week a whole list of every instance of spiritual awakening that's used throughout the book. Spiritual experience, I should say, which is the non-medical way to reference a psychic change. Dr. Silkworth goes on to say that human power cannot produce a psychic change. If you can produce it through human power, it's not a psychic change by definition. Psychic change is that part of me that remains unchanged despite any changes that I make, right? That's the core part of me that remains unchanged despite any changes that I make. In other words, I can change what I listen to music-wise. I can change what television shows I watch, what I read, who I hang out with, what foods I eat, what language I use, how I dress, my hairstyle or lack of hairstyle. I can change all that stuff. But then there's a core part of me that remains the same person despite all those changes that I've made. And that's the part that needs to change. That's the psychic change that occurs as a result of that. And so, if that sounds pretty hopeless, that the part of me that needs to change is the part of me that I can't change, welcome to step one, because that is the admission that we're making. But the part of me that needs to change is the part of me that can't change. Okay, the doctor goes on to say that medical and psychiatric efforts have historically helped some people who struggle with excessive drinking, but they've done little for the problem of alcoholism as a whole. And we're defining that there's a class of people known as a real alcoholic, which brings me to the next point, that there is a class of problem drinker, also known as the real alcoholic, who will not respond to the typical medical psychological approach to recovery. So, this, it astounds me how we have the medical profession, aka treatment centers as they'd be known today, and we have the private sector, if you will, the 12-step fellowship, and both sides seem to not realize that they are uniquely qualified to help a distinct group of people that are having difficulty with substance abuse. You have the class of people that responds to cognitive behavioral therapy and coping mechanisms and goal setting and acupuncture and equine therapy and all the other stuff that medical and psychological people come up with to treat alcoholism. There's a class of people that will respond to that stuff, but then there's also this class of people that does not respond to that, and they're going to need the 12-step program. And each group of people, the medical community and the treatment community and the 12-step community, are uniquely qualified to help their people. Okay, we are going to be in the doctor's opinion, and in the book, well, in the 4th edition, if you're using that, it is going to be page, bear with me, XXIX. We are looking for the paragraph at the bottom of the page that says, I do not hold with those who believe that alcoholism is entirely a problem of mental control. So while you are finding that page, I'm going to give a quick shout out to my supporters on Patreon. This is all the people that signed up to support me last month. There's new names being added to the list next month. So if you see your name up here, you are near and dear to my heart. You mean an awful lot to me. I could not be continuing this channel without you. Okay, on the doctor's opinion, at the bottom of the page, I do not hold with those who believe that alcoholism is entirely a problem of mental control. I've had many men who had, for example, worked a period of months on some problem or business deal which was to be settled on a certain date favorable to them. They took a drink a day or so prior to the date, and then the phenomenon of craving at once became paramount to all other interests, so that the important appointment was not met. These men were not drinking to escape. They were drinking to overcome a craving beyond their mental control. So there are examples, right? What he's talking about here is that, yes, we are maladjusted to life. In the narration between these two letters, the Big Book authors state that it's not enough for us to be told that we were maladjusted to life. But that is certainly true for a lot of us. There are certain things we have exaggerated emotional reactions to our world. And so if you can relate to that, a lot of people typically call that or refer to that as the spiritual malady, these exaggerated emotional reactions. And if you can relate to that, you might be alcoholic, but that's not the defining characteristic, right? We believe that any picture of the alcoholic that leaves out this physical factor is incomplete. There's a mental component as well, but it's not enough to just say that it's entirely a problem of mental control. It's not enough to say that I can't determine when the first drink is going to occur, that I can't guarantee you I won't go a week without drinking. Yeah, that's problematic. But without this physical component, without this phenomenon of craving, that is not unmanageable. The fact that I can't control when the first drink occurs is thoroughly manageable if I can control when the last drink occurs. But the phenomenon of craving here guarantees that I can't. So this example that he gives, someone that's got a problem or a business deal that's going to end favorably for them. Imagine having to be someplace at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And literally all you have to do is show up there, sign the paperwork, and you get a fat paycheck. It's going to be really good. You don't have to pitch anybody anything. You don't have to sell anybody anything. The deal is done. It just needs your signature. It's going to be yours. There's nothing stressful about that. There's nothing, to be maladjusted to. I mean, this isn't a terrible thing that we're trying to escape. None of that stuff. This is a wonderful day. We should feel like a kid on Christmas Eve. And let's say about 10 p.m., we decide, you know what? I've earned it. Let me just have a shot of whiskey before I go to bed, calm my nerves, and drift off into dreamland. That's it, just a shot to unwind. It'll be nice. That's all the person wants to do. And in fact, they need to get to bed on time so they can show up to the thing at 9 a.m. So they take a shot of whiskey. Well, then this thing that we call the phenomenon of craving, and I don't know if you can see my underline in yellow there, but this thing we call the phenomenon of craving takes over. And this person continues to drink, well past 11 o'clock, well past midnight, 2 a.m., 4 a.m. Next thing you know, it's 6:30 a.m. and this person still hasn't been to bed yet, and they are 3 sheets to the wind, and there's no way they're making it to the 9 o'clock appointment. They're not getting that paycheck. They're not circumstances. Maybe it wasn't a business deal. Maybe it was a PTA meeting. Maybe it was an appointment with a doctor. Maybe it was a dinner date with your significant other. Maybe it was a kid's soccer practice. Whatever the case may be, you had every intention of showing up to this thing, and it wasn't that stressful of a thing. It was the important thing that we have to realize is that I miss events and appointments that I want to participate in simply because I am too busy drinking to satisfy a craving beyond my mental control. Meaning that once the substance hits my system, once the alcohol or the drugs are in my system, I cannot end that ride whenever I want. I am taking it to the duration because of this phenomenon of craving. It takes over. The mind wants to drink one or two to satisfy, whatever's going on up there. And sometimes it's just to unwind. We're not even facing stressors. But once the mind hands over the baton to the body, right? Once we take that drink and alcohol gets in our system, the mind has handed the baton to the body, and the body begins to run with it. And that's the thing. That's the point the doctor wants to make. Cannot make this thing just about I'm drinking because I'm stressed, or I'm drinking because I'm hungry, angry, lonely, tired. That might be why we take the first drink, but it doesn't account for why we take the 5th or 10th or 15th or 27th drink. Does that make sense? Okay, I hope so. It's going to be a shorter to get to, but I do want to cover the next paragraph. The doctor says there are many situations which arise out of the phenomenon of craving, which cause men to make the supreme sacrifice rather than continue to fight. It's just one sentence, but it's really powerful. Someone once asked me, Derek, do you think this sentence is talking about suicide? And I absolutely do think that this sentence is talking about suicide. There is a line from Bill's story where Bill writes about a man who kills himself. In fact, let me turn to the end of that, and we'll get to this when we read Bill's story, but on page 16 of Bill's story, and I should have made a slide for this, I wasn't thinking. On page 16 of Bill's story, an alcoholic in his cups is an unlovely creature. Our struggles with them are variously strenuous, comic, and tragic. One poor chap committed suicide in my home. He could not or would not see our way of life. Bill, arguably, is really repetitive. He likes to make the same point over and over again, belabor this, drive that point home with a hammer, beats a dead horse, whatever expression you want to use. Wordy, repetitive Bill has only one commentary to make about a man who kills himself in his home, that man could not or would not see our way of life. Now, I don't know about you. I've never found a dead body, let alone found a dead body in my home, but I imagine I would have a lot to say about it. But wordy, repetitive Bill simply says he could not or would not see our way of life. Now, when this book is written, there isn't a solution readily available to people. And so today, there might not be as many, this sentence right here might not be as true. But when the doctor is writing this, he is talking about there are many situations which arise out of the phenomenon of craving. So referencing back the paragraph that we just read, I miss an important appointment. I miss a certain conclusion of a business deal. I miss a kid's soccer game, right? These situations, as the phenomenon of craving is taking over and I find myself missing things that I normally wouldn't, or engaging in things that I normally wouldn't. That cycle of spree and remorse where I emerge horrified by the events that occurred while I was drinking, things that I swore I'd never do. Those situations arising out of that phenomenon of craving pile up on us. In fact, the doctor talks about that on a paragraph that we've covered previously, where he talks about once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance on things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishing, difficult to solve. These problems are arising out of the phenomenon of craving and readily available for them. Can't or won't see it. They can't or won't wrap their mind around it. And in the absence of a solution for the astonishingly difficult problems that arise out of the phenomenon of craving, in the absence of a solution for that, many people end up taking the easy way out, the supreme sacrifice, they call it. And that, I believe, is suicide. And there's stories in the back of the book about people who lock themselves up in a barn and are just ready to die and end it all. And sometimes that feels like the only way out. And in fact, the original title of this book, or one of them that was kicked around, was A Way Out. That's what they were considering calling it. And they just discovered that there were way too many people that there are way too many other books, I should say, that were already named A Way Out. And so, we have the title Alcoholics Anonymous that we have today. So that's about it. If you've got some experience with this, I've known several suicides in recovery, guys that I've sponsored, guys that I've tried to sponsor, guys that I've known in the fellowship. Um, and this is a very real phenomenon. And if you know that and you want to share some experience, strength, and hope around it, I'd love to see your comments in the comment section wherever you're watching this video. Okay, without further ado, we have the study edition big book. And, if you're entering the contest right now as I'm recording this, you're not going to be in the drawing because there's all the names that are in there are in there. And actually, there's not a lot of people. Your chances are pretty good when you enter this thing. There's 26 people in there currently. That's it. I'm drawing 1 out of 26. Um, and your name stays in until you win. So some of the people in the drawing right now that I'm drawing names from didn't win last month's drawing. That book went to Gabby Cooney. This book, this one that I'm holding in my hand, it's wrapped in plastic. This one is going to go to someone new this month. I pay the shipping, it's free. And I've got a random name generator, and I'm not sure, I don't think I can do screen capture with this, so bear with me. You're gonna watch me, I guess, but I've got all the names in this random name picker here, and all right, I'm gonna pick a random name, and Ira Harrison. Congratulations, Ira. You have won the study edition big book. And so I'm going to contact you by email to get your address and congratulate you. And I will ship this out to you as soon as I get that address. Like I said, if your name is in the contest and you're not Ira Harrison, don't worry, you're automatically re-entered next month. And if you'd like to enter that contest, the link is in the description below. Also, if you'd like a free tool that I created, the Robust Recovery Checklist. It's a simple checklist, a simple document with about 10 or 12 items on there that you can kind of check to take the pulse of your recovery. Some people have found that really helpful. If you decide to support me on Patreon this month for just $5, I'm going to send you a copy of this Promises bookmark. It's got all the promises on the front for the 9-step promises, and on the back it's got all the other steps that have promises associated with them and the corresponding page numbers. So it's cool. It's a little glossy bookmark, just something. It makes a nice gift. And if you or someone needs help, feel free to check out my resource finder at bigbookwizard.net/help. There's no need to struggle. I know a lot of people in the professional community, and we can get you the help that you need. Also, if you want to reach out on social media, that's me. And that's really about it that we have this week. So I just like to say thanks for participating. Thanks for your patience with the late start this morning too. I just switched over to my MacBook. This is the first online big book study that we're doing from my MacBook as opposed to my other laptop. And that's why some of the fonts and stuff up here are a little jacked up because the font that I was using didn't translate from one operating system to the other. So I'm calling glaring attention to that that misprint there. But I'm going to do my best to rectify that for next week. And I look forward to seeing you here next week. And if no one's told you they love you today, please let me be the first. I'm glad you're here. Be well, and God bless.